Intro. Oh, let's do this. Get your glow sticks out. When I say sans, you say Undertale. Sans. When I say megalo, you say Vania. Megalo. Okay, so despite how much I try to distance myself from the loathsome U word, I constantly find myself washed up deep in the pits of it. So I thought to myself, why not just embrace it for the day? Embrace the Undertale fan inside of me and dig deep for a topic surrounding this beloved 8-year-old masterwork of a game. So entrenched in character and charm and beautifully handcrafted pieces that fit together like clockwork to create an otherworldly experience lasting but only a few— Sans. I'm going to be talking about Sans. Sans Undertale, the skeleton, needs no introduction, especially if you're a fan of the channel. He's most wanted in at least 20 different states for the brutal homicide of Mr. Comedy, first name Decent, and all immediate family. His remaining relatives are being safeguarded by the government and under 24-hour surveillance. You never know when that guy'll strike. They say it was a crime of passion, but he said it was one of necessity. Authorities believe it followed a dispute following a whoopee cushion. That most wanted status also extends to Tumblr too. They always said serial killers had this weird charisma to them, and the internet always seeks to prove things right. Was this Tumblr sexy man? He won the entire tournament? He beat Reagan from Mob Psycho. Toby Fox wrote fanfiction for that? But if anyone was gonna find the little skeleton man hot, it would be Tumblr. No Rule 34 law in the universe is gonna stop them, and just like Sonic, there always was a bit too much blue going on there for my liking. Christ almighty. I don't have to say it. It doesn't need to be said. Sans from Undertale has extended past just being popular. He's damn well broken out of the screen and is selling hot cats outside a dark mangy bar somewhere from how people treat him. Skulls are Sans. Bones are Sans. No, that's not Sans. Puffy jackets are Sans. Wait, shit. That's Sans. And this is Sans, and that one too. That $50,000 Kickstarter game made by an admittedly pretty weird kid took the entire world by storm. 8 years later, and it still retains an essence of that virality, and I don't think it's out of place to say that one of the reasons why is this funny little skeleton man here. He might just be a little guy, but this little guy was responsible for a little too much. And it's not really his fault. But we're here to talk about it. This is how Sans the Skeleton took over the world.
Do you want to have a bad time?
I learned how to do that in a day. I don't know if that's impressive or not. It probably isn't. But if that isn't proof that you should subscribe, do it anyway. That took a lot of effort. I'll come clean. This script has gone through some revision, and I'm gonna take a completely different approach to explaining how Sans got as popular as he did. And the key to his worldwide appeal lies in one specific word. No, not that one. You absolute degenerate. When all said and done, the internet has irrecoverably changed how we as the people perceive and experience things. It's done an insurmountable amount of good as well as bad, but that's just the nature of things when every single person in the world is connected by just the click of a button. In the end, we're all pawns, controlled by something greater. Memes, the DNA of the soul. They shape our will. They are the culture. They are everything we— Whoa, hey, how'd that get there? But yes, the key is in memeability, and on that scale, Sans Undertale breaks all the bloody charts. But how, exactly? Well, that is what we're covering in this first section, because intentional or not, Toby Fox has somehow created a character perfectly engineered for world domination. And for once, my dear friends, that tagline is not hyperbole, because Sans has taken over the world, as seen from here to there. And if you're still in any doubt, he's in Smash. And look at this reaction. Case closed.
Sans? Sans? That's a meme! That's a meme!
Yes, Nintendo. Yes, it is. If I'm going to be talking about how Sans gained the popularity he did, I may as well start at the proverbial tip of this supposed iceberg. There's a very popular trope that I'd use to describe this very early iteration of Sans: crouching moron, hidden badass. A trope where a character may appear as though they lack a few brain cells. In Sans' case, any at all. He's a fucking skeleton. Or overall, they appear the type not to take anything seriously, much to their own and other people's detriment. They may also look goofy or disheveled, being a 4-foot self-proclaimed big-boned individual with a perpetual smile and a Patrick Star voice sample counts, by the way. I mean, they may also just be conventionally hot as all hell on fire, but it's case by case. This specific trope is when these sorts of characters are actually some of the most capable, powerful, or intelligent in their verse. Their regular idiotic demeanor sometimes a part of their eccentricity, a purposeful mask to lower the guards of those around them, or a method to cope with their vast knowledge or strength. I've probably been showing you a few in the background while talking, but some examples may include Herlock Sholmes from The Great Ace Attorney, Dazai from Bungo Stray Dogs, Gintoki from Gintama, Plastic Man from the DCU, and of course, Sans from Undertale. Each one of these characters is normally a fun-loving goofball, and each one of them has the ability to easily take control of a situation or reveal themselves to have been in control the entire time. But what makes Sans stand out so much more than even these extremely popular and well-known characters? In my opinion, it is how we experience Sans' character and the ultimate role he plays in Undertale's roots. Sans is introduced as someone whose weaponized arsenal consists only of practical jokes and puns, the real cream of the crop there. He's introduced alongside his brother in the second area of the game, his brother being equally as eccentric but a lot more boisterous. And that's essentially that. He plays second fiddle to his brother and hopes you'll let him have his fun, because despite all the brouhaha and threats of capture and potential bodily harm, Sans knows that his brother Papyrus wouldn't hurt a fly. Sure, there are some things that may make you raise an eyebrow, like him appearing to teleport across your screen or fucking stop time itself, but you can very easily write this off as a silly gag or a stylistic choice, especially when you know that Toby Fox took heavy inspiration from Earthbound, whose middle and maiden name are comprised of those two very phrases. From there onward, he appears as something of a gag character, intermittently appearing to mess with you or offer funny interactions. You don't really pay it any more attention than, oh hey, there's Sans. Oh, you. Oh, you, yeah. You. Can you stop sucking those on my head, please? Think of the children. But there is one moment, one so strangely out of place that no matter how you look at it, makes you wonder who this guy really is. And if you play the game as intended, it's one you'll almost definitely experience prior to his big reveal. Over the course of 7 hours, your adventure is finally coming to a close. You walk through the echoes of a faraway home, now devoid of color and life and love. The weight of your journey finally begins to take a toll on your mind. How far you've come, how much you've grown. The distant city of New Home underneath, so close yet still so far out of reach, putting into perspective the people you've yet to meet, and in turn bringing those you have met to the forefront of your mind. But you can't stop now. Because what has this entire journey been for, if not to find a way home? So you continue walking, past the silent city, and into a hall bathed in golden light. Your steps echo, your vision slightly hindered by the blazing light. Then you stop, as the bells of judgment toll once, twice, then 3 times. A figure obscured by the light but still familiar to you begins to speak, but they don't speak as you remember them. They're serious, informative. They talk about things that only you thought you knew about. XP, level. But they aren't XP or level, they're EXP and LV. They tell you they mean execution points and love, level of violence. The deaths of any monsters by your hands suddenly bear a different meaning, a great meaning changed only by matter of perspective and nuance. But all this exposition and moral quandary may be of second concern to you, because all this time you're thinking to yourself, what is Sans doing here? What Sans does is essentially tell you to think about what you've done on your way here, and whether or not you've learned anything from it at all. Despite all the theatrics and information dumping, he still sort of half-asses giving you any proper advice, which sounds very much like the Sans you know. Of course, this changes depending on if you're doing the true pacifist, where he is then a little more upbeat about his opinion of you and gives you a pat on the back on your way to kill their king. Kinda weird, but okay, man. And things also change if you decide to reload the game or not, which touches on another aspect of Sans I think I'll talk about in a bit. But for Sans to essentially be the penultimate NPC you encounter in the game lends credence to his character having a lot more than meets the eye TM Transformers, which then puts us on track to talk about Undertale's genocide route, or No Mercy if you're Wailing Infant, and this route gives us a slam dunk reason for Sans' popularity. He's just really freaking cool. By the time you get to this point, you've probably played this entire game not once, but twice, and so have experienced Sans' nonchalant, unserious attitude for over a dozen hours of gameplay. In comparison to the other characters who I've mentioned whose experience and ability is an important part of the story and is shown time and time again, you've yet to bear witness to this side of Sans despite finishing the entire game 2 times over, going through the emotional roller coaster of neutral and pacifist in the process. And as you carve your way through this more morbid route, it's maybe a pleasant surprise that everything seems to be going falling by quicker, but it doesn't feel like it as your method of absolute elimination is attempting to phase through a nearby wall. Tedious and boring, but that's the point. There are many more videos talking about the meta commentary of Undertale, but this isn't really one of them, so go check one of those out. Tedious and boring until you meet Sans again, who scratches that little itch of yours to see something new, because unlike all the routes prior, all those little things that had you thinking about him more in depth are suddenly brought out into the spotlight. He notices from the very start that you're not here to make friends. He plainly threatens you to not do what he thinks you're gonna do. He blinks out of sight directly rather than plays it off as a gag. The light leaves his eyes and his font changes, but there's no haha got you moment, because that wouldn't be funny. Not if he's right about this. The image you've built up of him over these countless hours and multiple playthroughs is replaced with something eerie, something threatening. Each word that came out of his mouth made him less of a jokester, eventually giving you the impression that right now, Sans is stone cold. And when you eventually kill Papyrus, Sans isn't to be seen again, and you're left once again to do the comic book equivalent of practicing ninjutsu in a corner. I don't think it's working. They die, they die. They die. No matter how strong or weak, you treat them like cattle to slaughter, not caring for their pleas or cries as you reduce them to piles of dust. You pass the home you cast away willingly. You pass the silent city, now evacuated. You enter this golden hall. The birds sing, the flowers bloom, the bells of judgment knoll, and you're met with an obscured figure, but you don't need to see them to know who they are. After all, you've been here before, haven't you? It's Sans. Now face to face with the convicted, Sans comes to the conclusion that you are more than guilty, and that he must be more than a judge. Your morbid curiosity. To what end will you be satisfied? After this, what's left for them? For you? What will you do after? Your actions cannot persist without consequence. Sans cannot afford not to care anymore. There is only one solution. On this beautiful day, Sans will be your executioner too. What? What the fuck? This grueling 10-minute boss fight is like nothing the game has thrown at you prior. It's surprising, unforgiving, meant to catch you off guard. If I had to give it an analogy in some way, imagine this entire time you've been playing with training wheels and then Sans rips those off, and then the back wheel, and then the handlebars, and then hands you 4 balls telling you you have a children's birthday in an hour, so get practicing. All because Sans knows that this is the best way to get to you, to do things that others don't, to cheat, for lack of a better term, attack in places he isn't supposed to, move out of the way of your killing blows, put you under so much pressure that you think you should be playing a different game right now. Blue attacks, telekinesis, big fucking lasers, a new mechanic in karma that drains your health for every frame that you're in contact with his attacks. That sounds crazy. It's crazy, right? Yeah, the 92 suddenly doesn't feel so safe anymore, does it, pal? His magical flashing eye that people fanboy over like the new age Mangekyo Sharingan. Honestly, I get it. It's really freaking cool. This is Sans' greatest prank, that he's the final boss. He's the reluctant hero of the story, that when everyone else failed, he's the one who finally steps up to challenge you. He might not want to be a hero or a savior, but in fighting against you, that's what he's become. Undyne put up a fight too, but that's almost expected. She's the royal guard captain, second only to Asgore, and people sing her praises from night into the day, like Geralt of fucking Rivia. By people, I mean Alphys. But nobody expected the Sanish Inquisition. Crouching moron, hidden badass. In Sans' case, damn, I didn't know bad jokes hit like an intergalactic freight train. All the while, he speaks casually about timelines and misses the fourth wall by inches. He doesn't know that this is a video game, but he does know that you have some sort of special power that lets you essentially bend time to your will. If only he knew it was just saving the game. He even has an entire hidden laboratory hidden behind his house, which you gain access to by doing true pacifist and reloading his judgment 4 times to prove that you're a time traveler. There's the hint that he's actually well versed in quantum physics, as there's a book hidden between another one of his books in a table in his house, as well as his vague link to the previous royal scientist, the enigmatic W.D. Gaster, through his Gaster blasters. So there's a lot pointing to him knowing much more than he lets on. And it's because of his vast wealth of knowledge that he knows all these things about the nature of you and this world, only deciding to fight you with everything he's got when he's seen that you're hell-bent on destroying everything. A very common narrative people purvey about Sans is that he's actually super depressed, that his knowledge of timelines and the nature of the world resetting at a pin drop at the hands of another has rendered him to an outlook of nihilism and apathy. After all, what meaning is there in a world that's just fated to start all over? Another common theory is that he's tried to break out of this loop but was unable to, this covered-up machine hiding his failure to do so. But as he patiently awaited to come to a conclusion throughout this route, he finally sees that if you reach the end of this arbitrary goal you set for yourself, there will be no world left to reset, no world for him to go back to. So he has to fight. Sans is even willing to render himself an eternal roadblock by stalling his own turn till the end of time if it even brings about the slimmest chance of you giving up. Because even if he doesn't care, there are still people who do. Even if, in the end, it's a fruitless endeavor. Because as he knows you're a time traveler, your determination is too strong. You'll just come back. Sans can't. He can beat you dozens, hundreds of times to the point where he loses count, but you only have to memorize his patterns and kill him once. You're fighting a video game character limited by whatever metric of code is available. He, knowingly or not, is fighting the you that transcends the game itself. So yes, this isn't a fair fight, but despite all the out-of-battle-box attacks and the dodging and the iframe removal, it's not unfair for you, it's unfair for him. To you, this is a game. To Sans, this is his life. This action in the face of impossibility adds a meta layer of poetic tragedy to Sans' character, which only serves to bolster his already growing list of favorable traits. It also gives the fandom a very different outlook of the character to draw upon if all that angsty fan art isn't already proof. Despite losing all hope himself, he still undergoes an impossible task for the sake of the world that he lives in. But I know what you're thinking. Give me a break. What's up with all this drama, right? And fair play to you, I say. The real reason this fight got so much attention is because Megalovania bangs hard as all fuck. No, seriously, that's actually the reason. Or kinda, part of it, like a good sizable chunk. Let's circle back to memeability. If Metal Gear Rising Revengeance has taught me anything, it's that memes are our culture. They spread and infect and worm their way into our everyday lives, becoming synonymous with ideas and thus spreading themselves further. The idea that Megalovania latched onto was, holy shit, this slaps. People playing Genocide for the first time hear this and just make the face of utmost disgust because this track is dirty, luring you in with those innocuous 8 bits before slamming your face into an intense railroad of rock and pure exhilaration, all wrapped up in this undertone of judgment. It spews out finality like a volcanic geyser. Trumpets blare, kicks and snare blast, guitar shreds, the end is near, and you both know it. And from a meta perspective, this song exists outside the entangled web of leitmotifs Toby Fox has weaved with Undertale. This song is an anomaly not withholden to the ideas that came before it. Much like you and your disregard of your friendships and your quest to experience everything, much like Sans and his many game-breaking tricks and outside knowledge. It's in its own little bubble. No wonder people made covers upon covers upon covers, remixing this track and reimagining it in every conceivable genre up until the point where Megalovania is colloquially considered a genre in and of itself. And I do not blame a single person who believes that. Hundreds of millions of views and plays of the original song spawned hundreds of millions of views of remixes and covers on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, with solid footholds in rhythm games like Osu, Stepmania, Geometry Dash. All the while, content creators started using it as a punchline to jokes and gags, that 4-note starting melody becoming a staple in online culture. And what is Megalovania synonymous with? Sans the Skeleton. He was found in all those places, taking along his quirky cheater tricks and trolley attitude with him. People who only knew the song suddenly started to find out more about the character, and all those that cared about the associated melodrama suddenly found themselves falling into a rabbit hole of Sans and Undertale as a whole. Through his theme, the online world was made known to the presence of Sans Undertale. Through his character, those people stuck around, because in comparison to the rest of the already lovable cast, he stood out as different, existing in this, again stated, little bubble outside the non-meta conversation of Undertale. In a world of simple charm, he was complex, so complex with so many different fronts for you to empathize with and relate to. In a goofy, playful world, he was cool, so just naturally cool, fulfilling many people's idea of a power fantasy character, even when that power was being used against them. So mysterious, the entire conversation around him delving deeper into the unanswered questions of Undertale and its still many tightly held secrets. And the interest in music created countless of pieces of art on Twitter and Tumblr for those not so audio inclined, tapping into the many different aspects of Sans which earned him a great amount of recognition in that particular sphere for reasons, many reasons. There were countless things about him to tap into: the melancholy brought about by his knowledge, the silliness of his everyday antics, the love for his brother and his friends, the cool hidden edge of his powers and his valiant stand against the end. That gap between the roots of the game and the character themselves enticed people, sucking more people in to get involved, and all circulating to further empower the image, the symbol of Sans the Skeleton. So much, yet for anyone who knows anything about what it's like to create would know that this wouldn't be enough. The creative types know no bounds, and they stopped focusing so much on Sans' theme and instead started to focus on Sans himself. All that remixing and reimagining, what if we took that and applied it to the funny Bone Man himself? That, my friends, is where this rabbit hole turns into an everlasting spiral. Welcome to the Sans Cinematic Universe. If you've been a part of this community for any length of time, you do sort of have to sit down and wonder to yourself, how did we get to this point? How has this evolved to this? What ungodly stars had to align for us to subject ourselves to the eternal torments of the Sans Cinematic Universe? That's a real thing, by the way. It's called Underverse by Colombian animator Jael Peñalosa, and it's still going on, which is an adamant testament to the dedication that this community holds to its source materials. There is another series that went on for just about the same length of time, but we don't talk about that one anymore. What I've given you so far are the reasons as to Sans' extreme worldwide popularity and how he took over the world. What I'm going to give you now is how he planted his feet and kept it that way. The answer is simple. No, the answer is simple. It's literally simple. It's simplicity. All that talk about complexity and power fantasy and melodrama and meta-ness is all forward-facing to the player with a mask of pixels. And it's not even like super-duper detailed, beautiful pixel art. No offense, Timmy, this is still amazing. But compared to things like Valhalla or even Celeste, which aren't so far off from the release of Undertale in late 2015, everything about this game's aesthetic screams simple, and thus screams accessible. The actual behind the scenes was probably something else entirely, but as most architects would say, it's the facade that matters. I called Sans a symbol, right? In my opinion, he's a symbol of being able to create something so multi-layered and interest-sparking through the use of as little assets as possible. His design is simple. Simple to the point where people to this day still argue about the fur in his collar or the type of shoe or shirt he wears, if any at all. His animations are simple, not to mention one of the only fully animated battle sprites in the game, and it's just a torso and head jiggling around. His mechanics are simple. His theme, despite how amazing it is simple. But because we take into account everything we've experienced in Undertale prior, he stands out as being so amazing, despite on a macroscopic level not being all that impressive. And it's something that it feels like anyone can really try their hand at. Speaking frankly, you can apply this principle to many popular indie game fandoms and communities where they take the simple formula of a game and spin it in their own unique way. For Undertale, that predominantly came in the form of AU, or alternate universe Sanses. AUs described simply are what-ifs. Some people will put their glasses on and actually you into calling it an alternate timeline, but the difference is so negligible, and an alternate universe is an all-encompassing and easy-to-remember concept, so there's no need to complicate things in my eyes. What if all monsters were actually assholes? Welcome to Underfell. What if all monsters had their personalities switched? Welcome to Underswap. What if all the monsters in the underground were actually in outer space? Welcome to Outertale. What if they were all in the Mafia Tale? What if they were all gods? Reaper Tale. What if they all danced? Dance Tale. What if Sans beat Kara? Glitch Tale. Hey, I thought we weren't going to talk about it. And if you thought that was getting a bit much, then things start to get funky. What if we swap the character personalities and positions? Story shift. What if we take Underswap but give the characters and areas a little more distinction from Undertale? That gives us the team switched version TS Underswap. Apply the same principle to Outertale and we get PS Outertale. What if we take Underswap and give it the Underfell treatment? Swapfell, which is notably not the same as giving Underfell the Underswap treatment, which gives us Fell Swap. What is this? Pokemon? Not even mentioning Storyfell. I'll let you figure that one out on your own. And if that's not up your alley, try Fellswap Emerald. Ruby's just around the corner, I swear. With each of these AUs, the main question will almost always be, what is their Sans like? Because they'll always be the ones focused on most by the community, getting the most fan music and art and content, and everything that made Sans cool was also simple, if you'll remember. So people were easily able to supply that demand. And then we start getting into what people call the alternate timelines, and it's here where their love for Sans just stops hiding itself. Because almost every every one of these is somehow based on if Sans did X. What if Sans injected himself with determination during the fight? Aftertale. What if Sans was possessed by Kara? Something News Killer Sans. What if Sans stayed as a scientist? Science Sans. What if Sans fought you in Snowden, died, and Papyrus was left? Disbelief Papyrus. What if Sans met Gaster before your fight? Last Breath Sans. Boy, that one's a doozy. What if the Sanses of different AUs came together to beat your ass? Bad Time Trio. Also Murder Time Trio. Also Great Time Trio. Omni Lavinia, kind of. And perhaps the most egregious case of what I'll eventually be talking about, Dusttale. One of the oldest and most decorated of the Sans AUs, where he attempts to stop the humans' genocide by, drumroll please, committing his own genocide. Nice one there, pal. You really hit the nail on the head with that one. I could legitimately go on for another 20 minutes just listing the bare bones of each famous fan-made AU that I've been subjected to for the last 8 years of my residency in this wacky world of community content. So I want you to take a step back and imagine that insane viral popularity of Sans, spearheaded by the music, the design, the cool factor, and the character, and I want you to do it all over again. For each and every single one of these AUs, I am 100% not even kidding. Let's run back that tape. Boom, millions of views. Boom, millions of views. Boom, millions of goddamn views. Then we just repeat the cycle of learning more about the universe and the character quirks and the small differences in design, and get obsessed with the small meanings of each and every single one. Each AU and their variations getting tens of thousands of pieces of art drawn by newcomers and veterans alike, to the point where there was even a mini Tumblr Sexy Man contest consisting of only AU Sanses. Games made in their image, comics of them interacting, songs made to capture the tone. They were so popular that these fan creations have their own little microcosm of leitmotifs and music theming to ground or relate different pieces interuniversally, attempting in its own way to recapture that essence of Undertale's fluidity. And while it might not ever be to the absolute galactic scale that the original Undertale managed, to not call some of these massively fucking popular is a goddamn insult to the word. It never ends. It never ends. It's like the world's most fucked up game of Cards Against Humanity, but instead of permanently ruining friendship dynamics, you're pumping out gold. 24-karat magic. And the craziest thing is, it doesn't even matter how fleshed out the universe or Sans variant is, because people will see a cool design and a cool theme attached and it just becomes a fan staple. At which point it just gets adopted by the fandom, and any lore not found legitimately becomes a group project to find a way to elevate it in some way. So I'm just sat here thinking, that's bloody insane. It's bloody insane, right? This never-ending chain reaction of virality easily replicated because Toby Fox essentially handed us the secret Krabby Patty formula on a silver platter. Skeleton, design, make sure the eye is cool, fight, optional because coding is hard, and banger theme tune. The rest can come and go as you please, but if you have these things, people are just going to continue barreling through the door. As I've alluded to, Dusttale is the biggest progenitor of this mindset, because you can apply the dust philosophy and principles to any AU or character and it'll go like hot cross buns during Holy Week. Look at Dust Belief, Dust Swap, Dust Fell, Dust Trust, TS Dust Swap, that's a thing! All associated variations and personal takes, like Stretch's Dusttale, the new I Dutsahane. That's the only take you're gonna get of me attempting to pronounce that, by the way. Dusttale has a real reputation of ruining Sans as a character, because for many people he stops being the multifaceted nihilist and easily gets boiled down to a psycho killer stereotype, with borderline unbeatable epilepsy-inducing fights to boot. If you've seen those Undertale fan game memes, 7 times out of 10 it's probably from one of these incarnations of Dusttale. This AU is also a hotbed for the unfolding discussion of Canon v Fanon interpretations of characters, where certain traits may be exaggerated or in some cases fully retconned or added, much to the dismay of people who want to keep things in character or as the original creator intended. I personally don't mind as long as people don't parade the Fanon versions as being the god-given interpretations, because we still get some really cool things from these lines of thinking. They really don't run out of things over on this side of the fence, I'll tell you what. The thing to me that really elevates the idea of Sans' absolute authority on his popularity is the fact that no matter what kind of media you put your ideas to, the fandom will find it. Back in the day, it was Tumblr blogs like Ask Era or Drunk Kara. These days, even Twitter comics are enough. One of my favorite in recent times is a Dusttale-inspired AU called Dr. Megalo, where instead of Sans, it's Alphys who pulls all the stops to beat the human. I mean, look at this Alphys and Sans design, isn't that rad? There isn't even a game to it, just pieces of art and a whole boatload of various lore and gameplay ideas. But that's still enough to intrigue me and thousands of other people. people. Failing that, post your songs on SoundCloud, your sprites on DeviantArt, or your games on GameJolt, and it'll still probably get a decent amount of recognition. Especially those games, they come out like every week. And you know the games are a strong point because there's a Nintendo Direct-esque event hosted every year with thousands of viewers tuning in live to see the biggest upcoming releases. There's also another one upcoming soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But if I can bring us back to the start of this entire discussion, what is it that really cemented Sans' global takeover? The undeniable implementation of Megalovania and hence Sans into internet culture, and the subsequent fast-acting creators who capitalized on the easily replicated and accessible formula presented by Toby Fox eventually created a chain reaction of virality whose end result was a large, loyal fan base raised under the banner of Sans and Undertale. And these fans will be there no matter what. Whether you upload Undertale modded playthroughs, Undertale animations of any and all variety, Undertale comics or comic dubs, whole Undertale-inspired games, Undertale music for AUs, Undertale music for things that don't have AUs, Undertale parodies, Undertale lyric videos. The one thing that'll almost always be present is Sans the Skeleton, in some manner or fashion. And people will always be looking for that because of the vice grip he had on the internet and our culture through memes. In some ways, that's sort of sad, because Undertale is so much more than just Sans. Many people over the years have voiced this concern and their exasperation of the tried and true formula for Undertale projects, and many people recently have been course-correcting hard in light of that thought, especially with the release of games like Undertale Yellow. However, it's undeniable that when the ideas run out and the sun explodes in a blaze of cosmic glory, the only thing that'll be left as proof of humanity ever existing will be Phase 32, Aerobreath, Jeff the Killer Sans, and a materialized .mp3 of Megalovania. And maybe that's the takeaway from all this, that in the end, Sans was, is, and will continue to be the epicenter of Undertale content. At heart, he's a jokester, a comic. Deep down, he's kind of apathetic, but he's also strong. He's a name and a face you'd know from the first 4 notes of his theme, by the blue of his eye and his jacket and the hope he brings to an otherwise despair-ridden part of his game. A vessel of reliability and a foundation for great things. Like it or not, he's the reason the fandom keeps going and has existed for as long as it has. And above all else, he has a banger of a theme. As for his place in our culture, well, some things are timeless. And whether or not you think Sans' world domination is one of those things, I'll leave up to you. But that's all from me. Thank you for watching, and if you've made it all the way to the end, why not subscribe? Do it for me to Herr Perot. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.